Wife hid her pregnancy for months, saying she wanted to surprise me, but when the baby was born, everyone noticed the child looked nothing like me, and the DNA test destroyed every bit of trust I thought we had built over the years. I'm 28, and I believed I knew it all for most of my adult life. My name is Ethan. I grew up in a sleepy little town in Oregon with trees, old houses, and people who greet you even if they don't know your name. I worked as a construction supervisor for a small company. I wasn't rich, but I made a good enough living to live comfortably, enough to take my wife Mia on Saturday outings and buy her small things that would put a smile on her face. Mia's 26. My wife and I have been together since I was 23 and she was 21 at a friend's barbecue. She stood by the fire pit, a drink in her hand, wearing this sundress light yellow, which caused her to glow like summer. I remember thinking that she would be the type of person to make a stranger feel like they were home. I don't know how, but that day I just knew she would mean something to me. We spent 3 years together, were married after 2 years, and honestly, for a time, life was just the way it was meant to be. No secrets, no drama, just two people trying to build something. We had this little one-bedroom apartment with wood floors that creaked whenever she walked from the kitchen to the bedroom, and she'd always joke that the floors were jealous because I gave her more attention than I ever gave to them. She had this habit of making everything appear light, and maybe that's why when things started changing, I couldn't notice. Or maybe I didn't want to. It started small, when she told me she was pregnant. I had gotten home from work early that day, tired but triumphant, and she sat me down on the couch, her hands shaking slightly. She said, "Ethan, I've got something to tell you." I remember my heart pounding, thinking maybe it was terrible, but then she smiled, that same cheerful, nervous smile, and said, "We're having a baby." I don't know what that did to me. I just froze, then laughed, then snuffled like a fool. I hugged her and swore I'd do anything to assist in taking care of them. But she laughed again, said she wanted to keep it a surprise for a bit, not tell anyone until the time was appropriate. She said she wanted to do something special, something that would be remembered. I found that sweet. I didn't pressure her. I just trusted her. That was my first mistake. Over the next couple of months, she changed. She would hide her phone when texting. She started complaining that she needed more privacy. She said I should not take it personally that pregnancy had made her emotional and moody. I tried being patient. I did, really. I cooked for her. I massaged her back when she was sick, went shopping for prenatal vitamins, even built a rocking chair in our living room. I wanted to be ready for the baby. But occasionally, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and find her sitting in the dark on the couch, staring at her phone, her face illuminated by the screen. When I asked her why she was awake, she'd say she couldn't sleep. One night, about her 7th month, I could see that she had begun to wear long sleeves despite it being summer. When I asked her, she said she wasn't happy with the shape of her body. I believe she told the truth. She always felt self-conscious, so I didn't push her. But my mom requested ultrasound pictures, and Mia grew defensive, informed my mom that she hadn't booked that yet because she didn't want it to be a surprise for me either. That didn't make much sense, but I passed it over. She told me she'd gone to private checkups, out of pocket, because she didn't want hospital stress. I didn't ask her again. I believed her. I think love can blind you in the worst ways. Flash forward a few months, the baby was born. I was in the hospital room. I'll never forget that moment. She was sobbing, the doctor placed the baby in my arms, and I swear something exploded within me, like terror and joy simultaneously. But then I saw him, and something inside me halted. The baby didn't look like me. His complexion was lighter, his eyes blue. Mine are brown. Mia's are brown too. My mom's words hit me later on, when she went to visit the baby and breathed softly. "Ethan, he doesn't look like you or Mia." I told her to stop. I told her to stop being rude, but she wasn't wrong. Each visitor who stopped by had some awkward comment. "Oh, maybe he'll darken up later. Maybe it's the light." I tried telling myself it was true. I really did. But then, 2 weeks later after we'd taken him home, I started noticing things that would not let me alone. Mia would get worried whenever I brought it up. She said I was mad, that I was stressed and imagining things. But I couldn't sleep. I couldn't help but think about it. I started feeling sick in my stomach, like I was living in somebody else's life. I dug through the drawers at night looking for hospital papers. I knew that it was wrong, but I just couldn't resist. I saw a crumpled piece of paper in her purse. It was from a private clinic. The date was not as she told me it was. It was a month earlier. My hands shook so much that I barely could hold on to it. I accused her the following day. She got angry, said I was invading her privacy, that I was paranoid. She said she never told anyone about the pregnancy because she wanted it to be a special thing, that I ruined everything by spying on her. But I couldn't let it go. My chest hurt every time I looked at that baby. I wanted to love him. I did. But the not knowing was eating away at me. So I did something I never believed I'd ever do. I bought myself a DNA test. I didn't tell her. I swabbed my cheek and the baby's while she was taking a shower. I sent it the same day. I felt like a monster, but I had to know. Waiting for the results was torture. Every sound, every cry, every smile that child gave made me feel like I was holding someone else's baby. I didn't sleep much at all for a week. When the letter came, I waited in the truck at work for almost an hour before I opened it. My hands were clammy. My heart nearly stopped. And when I did finally open it and see the words, "Not a biological match," I swear my life just stopped. I just sat there, staring at the page like it was written in a foreign language. I blinked repeatedly. Perhaps I had read it wrong, but the words wouldn't shift. Chance of paternity, 0.0%. I can remember this weird sound slipped from my lips, a mixture of cackle and cry. It didn't seem like it even occurred. My chest tightened up, my fingers numbed. I couldn't breathe for a minute. I played hooky and just drove. I don't even know where I was. I just drove all day. There is this one cliff about 40 minutes from town where you can look over the valley, and it's a spot I used to go when I was younger to clear my head. I was there for a very long time, just sitting and watching the sun go down, trying to understand how something that I thought was so real was not real. I had called her 100 times in my head, but I couldn't actually call. I didn't know what to say. I got home late, close to midnight. The house was only lit by the little nightlight in the hallway. I could hear the baby cry faintly in the nursery. Mia was sitting in the rocking chair, feeding him. When she noticed me, I could see the fear in her eyes, as if she already knew. I did not even have to say it. I simply held up the envelope. She tensed. She for a moment tried to play dumb. "What's that?" she stuttered, her voice trembling. I said to her, "You already know." She looked down at the baby and then at me, and the silence between us was thicker than anything I ever knew. I asked her, "Who is the father?" My voice didn't even sound like my own. She started to cry, saying she didn't mean for this to happen, that she didn't know how to make me know. She said it was a mistake, that it was once. I stood there, listening to her struggle to get the words out, and all I could do was think about the last few months. All the smiles, all the "I love yous," all the late-night phone glows. I asked her when it happened. She told me during the time she'd informed me she was pregnant. My legs were no longer keeping my body up. I had to sit down. She came at me, said she wanted to make things right, that she loved me. But I could not even glance at her. My mind constantly went back to that one instant in the hospital, how I held that baby, how she smiled at me like it was all true. I said to her, "You led me to believe he was mine." She said she wanted to keep me safe. Safe. Like deception was safety. I do not remember much after that. I recall exiting the room and sleeping in the truck. I did not sleep. Every time I attempted to shut my eyes, I saw her face, heard the screaming of the baby, and felt the emptiness in my chest where love had been. I came back the next day. She was seated at the kitchen table with puffed out eyes. She offered to call her mother to come and assist in caring for the baby so we could talk. I informed her that there was nothing to talk about. I informed her I wanted a divorce. She begged me not to do it, promised she'd see a therapist, promised we could do it all again. How do you do it all over when the foundation has been lost? She asked me if I hated the baby. I told her I didn't. How could I? He hadn't made this decision. He didn't do anything he shouldn't have, but I couldn't be his father. Not now that she'd done this to me. She wanted to know if I wanted to know the father's name. I replied, no. I didn't want another man's face etched in my mind whenever I looked at my sons. That word, son, was now a lie. The following few weeks, things turned ugly. Her parents came over, tried to talk me out of it, said it was just a moment of weakness, that couples survive worse things. My own mother informed me she'd never speak to Mia again. My father, who barely says a word, just said, "You don't come back from that." I moved out, rented a small apartment near work. First couple nights were the hardest. The silence was unbearable. I waited for her to call, text, show up. She didn't. Guilt would hit at random times. When I overheard a baby cry in the supermarket or noticed a stroller a few paces away on the sidewalk, I thought of him. The little boy who'd never have a clue why the man who held him one night never came home. I tried to dig my way into work. My coworkers could see that I wasn't myself, but nobody asked me anything. And to be frank, I was relieved. For what was I going to say to them? My wife lied to me about a baby for 9 months. One night, about a month after I had left, she showed up at my apartment. I didn't open the door right away, but she kept pounding on it. I finally let her in. She was different, tired, thin. She said she had been to therapy, that she had realized how much she had hurt me, that she'd ended all contact with the other man. She begged me to come home, said the baby needed me. I couldn't be what she needed me to be. She said, "You loved him once. That has to mean something." I said, "I loved who I thought he was." That broke her. She sobbed for what felt like forever on my couch, and I just stood there staring at the floor, not certain what I was supposed to be feeling anymore. When she was exiting, she said she'd wait for me, that she wouldn't give up. I said nothing. When she shut the door behind her, it was final. I drank alone that evening, something I hadn't done in years. I couldn't help but consider how one lie destroyed all I had ever held true, and although I hated her for it, I still missed her. I still remembered the way she used to laugh, the way she'd fall asleep with my hand in hers. Love doesn't die when it's been broken. It remains like a bruise you keep on pressing. It's strange how quickly you can go from building a future to scraping by in the present. Months passed, and the hurt didn't go away. It just changed. Sometimes it felt like static, the hum of the background. Other times it hit me squarely in the face, out of nowhere. I kept going anyway. I was promoted at work, started managing a bigger crew, put in long hours. Everyone kept saying I was doing great, but I knew it was a distraction. Deep down, I felt hollowed out. Every morning, I'd wake up in the empty apartment, make coffee, stare at the same cracked ceiling, and wonder how life had turned out this way. Sometimes I'd scroll through my phone and see glimpses of old pictures of Mia, us at the beach, her smiling with a sunburn, her gender reveal video that she had taken on her own because she had informed me that she wanted to surprise me afterwards. I deleted those photos more than once, but for some reason they kept creeping back, maybe because I wasn't willing to let them go. I hadn't talked to her for almost 3 months. Then one evening my mom called. She informed me that Mia had invited me to meet her at a cafe near the park. My first instinct was to refuse, but I was intrigued. When I got there, I barely recognized her. She was exhausted, hair back, dark circles under her eyes. She smiled weakly when she saw me. We were quiet for a while before she spoke. She said the baby's name was Noah. I had no idea. She said he was healthy, smiling more. She asked if I wanted to see a picture. I stood there for a moment, then nodded. She handed me her phone. There he was, big brown eyes this time, hair starting to darken. And for a moment, that same flutter I experienced when he was born ran through my blood. I wanted to hold him so badly again, but I knew I couldn't. She told me that she wasn't asking me to come back. She just needed to speak with me. She let me know that she had told the other man about the baby. I looked up at her, wanting her to tell me more, but she wouldn't. I asked her if he was involved. She shook her head. "Not that he wants anything to do with him," she whispered. That hurt worse than I expected. I don't know why. Maybe because for all my anger, I knew what that meant. It meant that that little innocent boy would never meet his father, like I did half my life. My own dad departed when I was 9, and I remember the uncertainty, the humiliation, the unanswered questions. I did not want Noah to have to deal with it, but at the same time, I could not delude myself and pretend everything was okay. I told Mia that I could not be his father, but at the same time, I could not simply sit back and watch her struggle alone. I said I'd provide financially until she was stable. She burst out crying and said she didn't expect that from me. I told her it wasn't for her. It was for the kid. Then after that, we'd text back and forth here and there. She'd send me updates, pictures, videos of Noah laughing. I never wrote back much at all, but I looked at every single one of them. I started to think of what kind of man I wanted to be. The kind who walks away whole, or the kind who tries to mend the remains. I saw her again several weeks later by chance. I was at the supermarket, and she was with Noah in the shopping cart. He was wearing a blue hoodie and clutching a stuffed animal. He smiled when he saw me. I don't know if babies recognize faces so clearly, but for a split second, he looked like he knew me. She looked nervous. I greeted her. We just stood there and she said he had just turned 5 months old. I said he looked to be in good health. She asked if I wanted to hold him. My insides were twisting in knots. I wanted to say no, but I couldn't. I reached out, and she carefully surrendered him to my care. The moment I held him, something inside me opened up again. He looked up at me, wrapped my finger around his and smiled. I had tears in my eyes and I hated myself for it. I gave him back, grumbled something about needing to go, and left before she could see me break. That night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't help but think of him, of the fact that he didn't want any of this, of how his life started with the deceptions he would never know about. I phoned Mia the next morning. I said to her, I couldn't be his father, but I'd like to visit him sometimes, if she was okay with it. She didn't answer right away. Then she said to me, "You don't owe us that." I said to her, "I know." Then I started coming by every week, just for an hour or two. I brought diapers, groceries, sometimes toys. I never stayed around. She never asked me to stay more. We never talked about the past. We only dealt with the baby. It was not easy. With each visit, I was torn between anger and love. Some days, I'd hold him and be fine. Some days, it was an eternity. But I kept showing up, because no matter all of it, I wanted to be better than the man who left me as a child. Months passed, and everything became more or less normal. Mia got a new job at a local boutique. She seemed more stable, more subdued. I started dating again, nothing serious. I told the few women I dated what actually happened, and most of them didn't know what to do, but I was no longer embarrassed. What did happen wasn't my fault, but sometimes I found myself longing to know what could have been if she hadn't lied, if that little boy could have been mine. I think that's the most hurting thing, the alternate future that never existed. A year passed before I realized how much everything had changed. Not my life, but me. I wasn't that same man who had once believed that love would sustain anything. I'd been quieter, maybe a little tougher. Folks said I was calmer, more centered, but inside, I knew it was something else. It was acceptance. Not peace, not forgiveness, but the quiet understanding that certain things don't heal. They just stop bleeding. I was 29 now, and I lived in a small house on the edge of town, the kind with peeling paint and too many groans at night. I'd done it myself, spent Saturdays sanding floors and painting walls. There was something comforting about repairing something that was broken, even though it was just wood and nails. I suppose it made me think that I could repair myself as well, piece by piece. Mia and I still communicated, but only of Noah. He'd only just turned 2. She sent me a picture of him on his birthday, standing beside a cake with a leaning candle. His smile was huge, icing sugar stuck on his lips. I stared at that photo for some time. Sometimes I'd find myself smiling at my phone like a moron. I'd even printed out one of his pictures and put it in a drawer, not because I was clinging to the past, but because he was part of my past now, whether I wanted him to be or not. Everyone says time heals all. It doesn't. Time simply teaches you how to hold pain without allowing it to destroy you. I ran into Mia on a Sunday morning at the park. She was sitting on a bench watching Noah play, chasing pigeons away. She waved when she saw me. I sat beside her. We did not speak for a couple of minutes, just saw him laugh, stumbling around in his little shoes. Then she whispered, "He still remembers you, you know." I smiled weakly, not knowing what to do with it. She went on, "Every time he sees a truck, he says, 'E-fan.'" She still couldn't get him to say my name right. That hurt more than I had expected. I looked down at the ground, then stated, "You're doing okay, Mia." She nodded, her eyes watering. I try. I still think about what I did. Every day. I told her I knew. She looked at me for a long time, then asked me if I hated her. I thought about it before answering. Hate is tiring, and I no longer had that in me. I told her, "No, I don't hate you. I just don't love you like I used to." She nodded, wiping away a tear. We sat for a little while, watching Noah climb up the slide. She said she'd started seeing someone new, a school teacher in town. Said he was knowledgeable and was being kind to her. I told her I was glad for her. And I was. That actually surprised me. Because for the first time in a very, very long time, I wasn't seething. I wasn't envious. I just wanted her to be okay. As I was getting up to leave, she asked to place Noah in my arms. I hesitated for a moment, then agreed. When she handed him to me, he stretched out unafraid, as if he recognized me. I took him up, felt his small hands encircle my face, and he laughed. That sound, it worked on me. I felt warmth where there had been chill for so long. When I gave it back to him, Mia whispered, "Thank you." I nodded and walked away without looking back. That night, I couldn't help but think of him. How he laughed, how he looked at me like I was someone safe. I knew I'd never be his dad, not in the way that matters on paper, but then maybe that didn't matter as much as I thought. Maybe life's not always about fixing what's broken. Sometimes it's just about being able to live with the cracks. I visited the park quite frequently during the next few months. Sometimes I was able to see them, sometimes I wasn't. But when I did, Noah would run to me, smiling on his face as if everything was okay. We'd play catch, feed ducks, laugh. Those times didn't erase what happened, but they made it watered down. They reminded me that pain and love can be in the same space at the same time. I started feeling lighter. I started sleeping better. It was a night when I drove home from work, and the sky was this intense orange, oozing into purple. The kind of sunset that makes you stop for no reason. I pulled over, turned off the car, and just sat there. For the first time in years, I didn't feel as if something was missing. I wasn't repaired, but I wasn't broken. I had considered it all, how one lie had shattered me, how that same lie had somehow made me grow. I had realized that life isn't going to give you closure. You have to make your own. Mia had said to me earlier that she had wanted the pregnancy to be a surprise, to share an experience that we would never forget. I guess she got that, just not the way she had wished. And in a strange sort of way, thanks for the truth, although it stung. Because it showed me who I am. I'm not the guy who was betrayed. I'm the guy who wrote it out. A few months later, I ran into someone again. She's Lauren. She's 30 years old. She works at an animal shelter. First time we met, she spilled coffee on my shirt and apologized so profusely I couldn't help but laugh. She still doesn't have the whole story, but I'll share it with her someday. Meanwhile, I'm learning to let others in again. Slowly, gently, one day at a time. Sometimes, late at night, I'll find myself thinking about Noah, wondering what he'll recall when he grows up. Maybe he will remember a man who came by on occasion, who smiled at him in the park, who showed him how to throw a ball. Maybe that will be sufficient. Maybe not every employment in life needs an employment description. Maybe love, in its secret hours, is merely appearing when it counts. That solace calms me. It does not erase the past, but it makes the future possible again. And that's something that I never thought I'd ever feel.